So the name Neverstill actually originates from the Hudson River. It's one of the original Mohican names of the Hudson River, waters that are never still.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I love that. And then if you think about it, wine is never still. It evolves every day, even though it looks like it's being still. It's evolving and changing every day. And I really love this notion of just kind of not being still in life. We're constantly moving. And as a company ethos, like striving, challenging, moving, changing, it's kind of the antithesis of when you were a kid and your parents were like, sit still. And we're like, no, we never want to be still.
That's terrific.
Down in the valley, moved up from the city. It's a new way of living and I'm trying to get used to it. One park coolers, half an ounce of an idiot. Ordered a Manhattan and they call me a Cidiot. At first I hurt my feelings, but it's kinda got a ring to it. When you move to the country, they can tell when you're new to it. I'm looking at a place, but I'm trying to keep fitting in. It takes too long to be a local, so for now I'm a Cidiot.
I'm Mat Zucker, and this is Cidiot, learning to live and love life in the Hudson Valley. Today we're going to talk about wine. Brian and I just moved to a house on a creek next to orchards, again. While these orchards are apple orchards, the orchards I think most fondly about are wine orchards, or I guess grape orchards you would say. Anyway, I am not a Cidiot when it comes to wine. I am very, very experienced. So I was excited to be introduced by my friend Jamie to Christy, who runs Neverstill Wines, a New York State-based winery. Women-owned, women-led, women-run, and based in the Finger Lakes, with a tasting room here in Hudson. I've been in Neverstill many times, so I asked her to come on the show to talk about wine, to talk about New York State wines, to talk about Neverstill, which has a really cool story behind the name, which I did not know, and I think you get a kick out of. So please tune into my conversation with Christy, and be sure to listen to the end, because Christy has a very special promotion for Cidiot listeners if you pop by Neverstill on Warren Street. Hello, Christy.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on Cidiot. I'm so excited to talk about wine.
Yeah, wine is actually a really fun thing to talk about and a fun industry to be working in right now, for sure.
Oh, yeah. We need to hear about what's going on right now, too, and talk about New York State, too. But I guess maybe we'll start with the Hudson Valley. What's your relationship to the Hudson Valley? Are you from here? Did you move here?
So, no, I'm actually not from the Hudson Valley. I have lived in New York for the last 12 years and live in Westchester County. And, I started visiting the Hudson Valley probably 10 years ago and just would, especially Hudson in particular, and really, really enjoyed my days there and was looking for ways to kind of go and visit and spend my time. And when this project came about and we decided to kind of figure out how we were going to sell our wine and distribute and whatnot, I was kind of like, wait, this is the perfect opportunity to enable me to spend more time in my favorite town, which is Hudson, which is to start a business there. So we decided that was kind of the perfect spot to locate our tasting room. Plus, it's got that direct train into New York City, which is kind of a captive audience.
Right.
And a great kind of weekend, activity when people are visiting Hudson. So that is why we chose it. But honestly, it was just an excuse for me to spend more time in Hudson.
That's terrific, too. Well, wine is an excuse for me to spend more time in your tasting room.
Oh, well, awesome. Please come back right away.
Yeah, and the way I met you, so listeners know, is I met you through my friend Jamie, who I used to work with in digital marketing, who now works in Neverstill. So she introduced us. She's
been a fabulous addition. I absolutely adore her. She's just jumped in and she's already neck deep and got her fingers in everything. So we're thrilled to have her.
Yeah, that sounds like Jamie. So let's talk about Neverstill. I guess, could you give us the origin story? It's a cool name. I work in branding, so I was interested in the name. I love the design system too, and of course the room is beautiful. But maybe start with the business itself and why it is and what it is.
Yeah, so the name Neverstill actually originates from the Hudson River. It's one of the original Mohican names of the Hudson River, waters that are never still.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And then if you think about it, wine is never still. It evolves every day, even though it looks like it's being still. It's evolving and changing every day. And I really love this notion of just kind of not being still in life. We're constantly moving. And as a company ethos, like striving, challenging, moving, changing, it's kind of the antithesis of when you were a kid and your parents were like, sit still. And we're like, no, we never want to be still.
That's terrific. Terrific. And where is it's up in the Finger Lakes?
Yeah, so we have a vineyard called Hidden View Vineyard. It's up in the Finger Lakes on the west side of Seneca Lake, which is beautiful countryside with a gently sloping vineyard right down towards the lake. And it's really, really prime grape growing region up there because of the really deep waters provide a moderating effect on the vineyards. So you can really grow high quality grapes there.
Yeah, I went to school in the Finger Lakes. I went to Cornell in Ithaca on Cayuga. And wines was a big part of the culture at Cornell because of the hotel school and everything like that too. New York State wines weren't really famous though. Like they were kind of sketchy or unknown or they were expensive for what they were. So if there's good ones, it was priced pretty high. So you're like, so I guess I would love to talk about New York State wines and both how you've seen the perception maybe change and what we don't know about them that we should overly appreciate. I might be using like a dated stereotype or something.
Yeah, I think, and that's kind of a common dated stereotype. I would say people that spent time in the Finger Lakes, 15, 20, and in your case, just a few years ago, of course. But I do think it's kind of a dated stereotype. The region's changing fast. I mean, there has been great grape growing and winemaking there since the 70s. However, in the last, 10, 20 years, there's been some marked growth there and lots of international winemakers and wineries moving in and buying land and making wine as well as it's become more well known. But it's considered an emerging wine region and lots of things are changing there. It's pretty exciting. COVID made a huge jump on it too. Lots of people discovered it during COVID because wine, it explores instead of going abroad or other places, instead just drove up to the Finger Lakes. You had a lot of restaurateurs relocate up there. So, hotels have opened. So it is a changing place. And I think most importantly, climate change is changing it for the better as well. And so we decided to locate our winery and project up there because we feel like it is the future of the United States wine region.
Oh, wow. So one positive news of climate change.
Right. Bold statement. I know, but we bet the farm on it.
Well, so wait, how did you even get into wine? Have you always been in the industry or did something else?
No, this has been a career change for me. A lifelong wine lover and passionate hobbyist. And then this was always kind of the plan, though, at midlife to move into the wine industry, although we planned to do it in the West Coast. And it wasn't until about 4 years ago we decided to pivot on that and locate it here in New York as we got more and more excited about the quality of the New York wine region. And then, of course, climate change is really adversely affecting the wine region on the West Coast and improving the wine region on the East Coast. So it kind of became a no-brainer that I would rather be on a rising tide and be able to advocate for something that's growing and emerging. And so that's why we decided to pivot.
And who's we?
My husband is kind of a silent partner and a cheerleader, I would say.
So you run it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Women owned, women led.
Oh, cool.
And our team was all women until recently. We have hired 2 men. So I want to make sure everyone knows that we also love men. And we have 2 new fabulous men on our team.
And the tasting room in Hudson is really cool. I don't know, it opened fairly recently. I think I've gone a few times and stuff. And it's like this big living room and with a fireplace and an outside space. And I saw some like a bachelorette party there and I've been there alone, like really quiet and nice and stuff. And it's like a refuge kind of in Hudson.
That was really kind of the goal. I grew up and my family had this phenomenal bar right when you walked into the entryway of their house. And it became kind of this central place to stop by in our town at 5 o'clock. You'd just stop in and there'd be like local neighbors or friends just stopping in for a drink at 5 o'clock or 5:30. And I just was like, I want this to feel like someone's home where you can just stop in and have a quick drink and feel like you're in someone's living room. And so that was really the goal. So it is very home oriented, very cozy. And it was designed by a local designer, Amy Elias, also known as the Lavender Ghost, who was an alum of ABC Home and Carpet in New York City.
Oh, cool. And what about the wines themselves? I mean, I can't drink red wine, so I've only had the sparkling and I've had a couple of the whites. One was like a reserve. I don't know. Maybe tell me about the different wines.
Right. So we currently only have whites released. Red is, we have bottled a Cabernet Franc that's been in barrel for 2 years, and it's going to be coming out this fall in September. But right now, our first release was late summer, and we have a really beautiful, bright, crisp and mineral Chenin Blanc, which is not a very common varietal for the Finger Lakes, but it does beautifully, and it's a top seller. And then we have a Riesling, a dry Riesling, and then we have our Reserve Riesling. Those were our first 3 releases, and they turned out phenomenal. They're everything New York wines should be, which is really light, really fresh. They're kind of on the lower side of alcohol. Then they're just refreshing and just kind of indicative of a cooler climate. Also, I might add something that is becoming more popular amongst consumers. We can get into that later, but consumer preference on wines is currently changing, and the wine industry is kind of having a massive overhaul. So luckily, we're on the front end of that too. And then also, just 2 weeks ago, we released our spring 2024 release, which is our rosé, our first rosé. And
Brian loves rosé. He drinks it by the bucket.
Oh, well, come drink ours by the bucket. Although there won't be that many buckets left, because I think we're almost halfway sold out, and it's only been out for 2 weeks. And then we released our Pet Nat, which is our sparkling as well, which is a fun, bright, really juicy, awesome summer wine.
And what's the difference between the reserve and the regular with a Riesling? Is one like the cheap one? Like, what's the difference?
Well, so both of them were estate grown from our vineyard, from our Riesling, but we made them in different styles. And so the Reserve Riesling is made with a native yeast fermentation. That's the yeast that came off of the grape skins in the vineyard. And so it has very different notes and aromatics than the other Riesling because of the different yeast that it was made with. It's much more savory in character. The other Riesling is a little bit more fruity and floral. And then the other difference in the Reserve is we kept it on its lees until we bottled it. And that means we let it interact with its dead yeast cells that fall to the bottom of the tank while fermentation is happening and post-fermentation. And when you do that, it actually helps develop more, complexity and more nuanced aromatics and flavors, and also a little more texture and body. And ultimately doing that, aging it on its lees, makes it more age-worthy. And so the Reserve wine is a tad more complex and age-worthy than our other Riesling, and they're very different in flavor.
What's age-worthy? What does that mean?
Age-worthy meaning you can cellar it for 20, 25, 30 years. This is the unknown fact about Riesling. I mean, Riesling is one of the most serious grape varietals that exists, and it is one of the most age-worthy wines. It will age for decades and decades and only get better with age.
Oh, there's no way people, I didn't know that.
Yes. Riesling is that is why, you will talk, if you talk to most sommeliers or wine professionals, they all love Riesling. It is the most food-friendly wine. So that's why you always see it on high-end pairing menus. And it's super versatile and really able to show distinct terroirs in its own way. So it really is kind of the king of grapes, and it's widely misunderstood.
Any grapes that don't do well in New York or that you tried that didn't work?
Well, yes. So definitely you need to use cool climate varietals in order to be successful in New York. And a lot of New York wineries even use hybrids, which are especially hardy in cold climates and usually require less interference with any kind of pesticides or anything because they're just more hardy. Our Pet Nat is the Cayuga White, and that's a hybrid, and that is very successful in our climate. But it's very challenging to grow something like Pinot Noir in the Finger Lakes or Cabernet Sauvignon because we just don't have this steady vintages like a lot of other climates do, and our weather really isn't quite warm enough. So you have to have really cold, hardy varietals like Chardonnay, Cabernet Franc, Riesling, Blaufränkisch. There's a lot of varietals like that that are well known in, Germany or really cool climate regions.
Oh, okay. I mean, so like Cidiots, are all about like they're new to the country and they come from the city and they're kind of naive and I try to help them get acclimated. I don't know if the equivalent for wine would be like a win idiot, but like, do you have any, just try to put that one together. I'm sure there's a word for that. Any advice for like the newcomer, not to wine, but to New York State wines, like what they should expect or what they should do to get, like, if you're going to try something? Like I did the tasting. So I did like a flight, that was kind of fun because I could like sample things.
So I think that the flight's a really good, way, because if you're not tasting them side by side, it's really hard to know what you really think about them. So I feel like people should really try wine side by side. That's the best way to discover what you really like. And then when it comes to the New York wines, I mean, exploring the New York wines, there's 3 main regions in New York. You've got your Long Island region, you've got the Finger Lakes regions, and then the Hudson Valley wine region, which is also growing and emerging. It's trickier to grow wine in Hudson Valley because the climate, there's all kinds of tiny little microclimates in Hudson Valley. So it really depends on property specific and if you can grow high quality grapes. But my advice would be just to do exactly what you're saying, like side by side tastings and taste lots of them. New York has a lot of really phenomenal wines. And I would be lying if I told you New York didn't have some not great wines too, right? Any wine region has that. And so I think it's important to do your homework, make sure you're working with a winery that is making wines in the style that you like, and reaching out and just talking to people about their own local wineries, or winemakers about who are their favorites, where should you visit. But I think what's really cool about the wine region in New York is that it is kind of a hidden gem, and a lot of New Yorkers don't even know about it. When we moved and started to Hudson, it was amazing to me in Hudson how few people had really been ever exposed to New York wines. And then when they have that aha moment and they taste our wines and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea that New York had such great wines. And that's such a great feeling. Our focus is really to get to know our customers and really helping them understand the New York wine region, because we don't just sell our wines. We also sell, I think, at least 10 other New York wine brands in our tasting room, and also a few other New York spirits, because we really want people to understand how important it is that we support our local producers. And the other thing about it is, as we move forward in the future of our country and sustainability, it's kind of most important that we are buying what's in our backyard, because the shipping of wines around the world is actually the largest carbon footprint of this entire industry.
You mentioned taste preferences and stuff are changing a little bit, or behaviors. What's changing? What do you notice?
So the wine industry, fun fact, is in kind of an epic meltdown right now.
Really?
Yeah, it really is. It's interesting. Sales are lower have taken the huge deep dive, and worse they've been in, I think, 22 years now. All post-COVID. And so there's a number of factors that are contributing to that. One of them is consumer preferences changing. And I think I mentioned that earlier. People are changing the way that they consume alcohol. Some people are abstaining altogether, or they're moving over to, cannabis-infused drinks. Some people are just drinking lower alcohol. And in fact, red wines are on the decline. People are drinking more white wines. And I think I mentioned earlier, lighter, fresher style it's much more in style. And then also our younger generations, they're just not drinking that much. And so that's kind of interesting. Health and wellness is becoming a really important part of life in a different way than it was in some of our generations.
Yeah. Well, we can turn that around.
Well, I think what's interesting is wine is a little bit different than other alcoholic beverages, because wine does have a place in the health and wellness movement, in that the story of wine in cultures for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years has a lot to do with connectivity and experiences and occasions. And it's much deeper than your other typical beverages. And the art of winemaking and its pairing with foods makes it kind of unique. And so the wellness people are reaching out to us about coming and visiting in the Hudson Valley and orchestrating wellness trips. And they want to include wine tasting, because, wine tasting or wine consumption in moderation is actually considered by a lot of wellness gurus as a, healthy vehicle to a balanced life.
And what about for you? Where would you like to see this go? What's the goal? What's the plan?
I want everyone to know how awesome New York wines are. And so a lot of that is just getting the word out and having them try them. And once they try them, it's an easy leap to buy them because once they try them, they think they're delicious. So that's really important to me. And it's also good for our state. So that's kind of the big goal. I really just want to like bang on that drum and share the news that like we've got some really cool stuff happening here in the New York wine region. And I just want people to be aware of it and support it.
What's your favorite varietal or your favorite glass of wine? What do you reach for?
People ask me that. It's kind of like asking who your favorite kid is.
Who's your favorite kid?
I do. Well, so I have 3 and I do have a favorite. And the answer is it changes depending on who's behaving the best.
I see.
It changes depending on like what kind of mood I'm in, who behaves the best. And so it's kind of the same way with the wine. It really is. I think most hardcore wine lovers, it really depends on the weather, depends on what you're eating, what kind of mood you're in. And then also another interesting thing is that these wines do evolve month after month. And they do express themselves differently with time. And so when we start out, I could have one be a favorite, and then 5 months later, it tastes different. And a different one's my favorite. Right this second, I'm definitely crushing on our new rosé because I love it.
Nice. Brian, I'm going to go get you a bottle of the rosé. I'd love to ask guests like for places that I may not know or underappreciate or people don't know about. Do you have a favorite place in, say, Hudson?
Yes, I have a few favorite places.
Okay.
Are we talking about like shopping, food, just anything?
If someone's coming up, like a lot of people will be over the next couple of months, and they're coming up for like 36 hours or 48 hours or 72 hours, where would you send them?
I'm a pretty hardcore fan of Feast and Floret's dinner. I do love their food. I mean, they're so consistent and their ambiance is amazing. I love them. I always send our visitors to the Quiet Botanist. She has the cutest, Rebecca, the most.
Oh, I've seen that's on Warren Street, right? Yeah.
I mean, just really cool stuff. And it's the greatest little gift store ever. Nice. So that's 2 of my like favorites. And then I tell people don't go home without running into Talbot and Arding and taking some stuff out of their prepared food case because it's awesome. Their food's so good too.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good choices. Two of them are, one's on Warren Street, one's on 3rd Street, and then Talbot and Arding's on 2nd.
Oh, and then if you're headed out of town, you want to grab a sandwich. I mean, who doesn't love Quinny's? I mean, Quinny's is great.
I know. So we didn't know Quinny's until recently. We'd go every now and then, but now we're going more frequently, and it's delicious. And you can sit outside, or they got sandwiches. They started a dinner pop up, which is really fun every now and then. It's great.
Yeah, love it. I mean, food's really important to me as a wine producer. And so I think a lot about food.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot of glasses of wine out there. So like, tell me, what's your ethos? Like I'm into brands and stuff and their unique story. How would you describe the ethos of Neverstill?
Right. I think I touched before on this kind of notion of just never being still. And that is, I think at our core, something that we want to constantly be doing is like pushing the boundaries. And I look forward to us like looking into new packaging, more sustainable options there. Our vineyard is certified sustainable by the New York Grape Growers Association. So that's something we're really proud of. And so we're really interested in figuring out how to be as good as we can be in that realm and also help move the industry forward. We're also women-owned, women-led, and very, very focused on community collaboration. That's key. I mean, why would anyone get in the wine business unless we're here to have fun and do a lot of really fun, collaborative, community-based events and partnerships? So that's really important to us.
Like a Cidiot wine hour, like a Cidiot collective, Cidiot collab?
It's like you read my mind. It's like you were in there and you knew exactly what I was trying to say.
Well, everybody doesn't listen that I've always wanted to do an evening with a bunch of Cidiots, right? And the idea is like it's a bunch of different kinds of entertainment and stuff. And I've had some failed attempts at venues and programming, but like I'm almost ready to do that.
You know what? I can see it right now. We'll have an evening of Cidiots in indoor, outdoor on a Neverstill patio in the backyard and have a full wine tasting of Cidiots. I love it.
Yeah, hysterical. All right. Stay tuned, everyone. We're doing it. So clearly we all want to talk about wine and more importantly, drink wine. So how do we get people into Neverstill?
That's a great question. I mean, we are a new business, and so we're really excited to get our name out there and have people come in and see our beautiful tasting room. So I would say for sure, if anyone comes in and they mention Cidiot, we would be happy to give them a complimentary wine tasting.
Ah, nice, nice. Excellent. We will.
Down in the valley, moved up from the city. It's a new way of living and I'm trying to get used to it. 1 park noodles, half an ounce of an idiot. Ordered a Manhattan and they call me a Cidiot. At first it hurt my feelings, but it's kinda got a ring to it. When you move to the country, they can tell when you're new to it. I'm looking at a place, but I'm trying to keep fitting in. It takes too long to be a local, so for now I'm a Cidiot.